Perfect. Thank you. Okay. And hopefully the screen has shared. Yes, perfect. Thanks, Lorraine. And thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time to join me today. My name is Jennifer Chow. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Chimeric Therapeutics. Chimeric Therapeutics is a clinical stage cell therapy company. And as it says, we're focused on bringing the promise of cell therapy to life for more patients with cancer. Lorraine actually talked about the fact that cell and gene therapy is the most active investment space in biotech today, nearly $20 billion of investment in 2020. It's not uncommon at all in this space, particularly in cell therapies, to see acquisitions of over $10 billion. I've been in 2 companies that's happened to, as well as partnerships of over $3 billion for individual assets. And all of that investment is really based around what we refer to as the promise of cell therapy. Very simply put, that promise is about providing curative therapies to patients with cancer. Traditional drug development, really monoclonal antibodies, checkpoint inhibitors, has focused on delaying disease progression for cancer patients. What cell therapy is focused on actually is providing curative intent or curative potential to those patients. And what we've seen in the blood cancers where cell therapies are approved already is that patients are actually being cured of their cancers. So at Chimeric, our mission is to actually develop and commercialize therapies that have that potential for patients. We are, as I said, a clinical stage cell therapy company. We were founded in 2020 by Paul Hopper, and we were listed publicly in January of 2021 with an initial capital raise of $35 million. We were founded when we licensed a very promising first-in-class therapy from the City of Hope Hospital in California, known as the chlorotoxin CAR T therapy. We're currently focused on advancing the development of that asset, as well as on enhancing our pipeline with additional cell therapies and building out the unique expertise that we have for the development of cell therapies. First and foremost, we are focused, and we have been focused in 2021, on advancing the development of the chlorotoxin CAR T therapy. We have the exclusive global rights to this therapy, and the therapy has very strong IP protection to it. Chlorotoxin is first in class, and it's unique because it utilizes a very unique tumor targeting domain known as chlorotoxin, which is actually an amino acid peptide derived from deathstalker scorpion venom. When we've looked at how you move chlorotoxin into development, very typically what you see is drug development takes 10 to 15 years. The most significant time frame is actually preclinical development, which usually takes somewhere between 3 and 6 years. With chlorotoxin, we completed all of the preclinical development in glioblastoma back in 2020, and we were very pleased that chlorotoxin had a very promising preclinical profile. We saw specific and broad recognition on the binding of glioblastoma cells, and glioblastoma, as many of you know, is a rare and yet very deadly form of brain cancer. We also saw a potent anti-tumor activity with chlorotoxin and safety with no off-tumor recognition of healthy cells. This allowed us last year to move chlorotoxin into the phase 1 program that we're currently in. Within that phase 1 clinical trial that's currently underway at the City of Hope Hospital in California, we intend to accrue about 18 to 36 patients, and the trial should take about 2 years. We're very pleased in April to be able to announce that we had cleared and advanced past the first cohort of patients with no dose-limiting toxicities. And in May, we were able to announce that the first patient in the second dose cohort was actually dosed as well. Later this fall, we anticipate that we'll have some data to share with you on the patients in those 2 dose cohorts. As we continue the patient accrual on this trial, we're actually preparing for the phase 2 registration trial as well. We see that registration trial allowing us to commercialize this therapy. That trial will be in patients with relapse or refractory glioblastoma. We anticipate that we'll recruit about 75 to 80 patients globally, and we'll have sites around the world that will participate in the trial. And with that, we actually believe that we will not require a phase 3 clinical trial like so many other types of therapies do. And that's really based most significantly on two things. The first being that in glioblastoma, there is a very high unmet medical need. Unfortunately, the 5-year survival patients with glioblastoma remains less than 5% today. And the other is that there are global precedents that have been set as cell therapies in lymphoma, mantle cell lymphoma, and multiple myeloma have been approved around the world based on single-arm phase 2 trials. So we're very excited to be able to continue to move chlortoxin through to commercialization rapidly. As we're doing this in GBM, we're also aware that chlortoxin has the ability or the potential to expand into benefit for patients with other solid tumors. And so we're currently looking at developing a basket trial in solid tumors like small cell lung cancer, melanoma, colorectal cancer, and prostate cancer with chlortoxin as well. Outside of chlortoxin, our team has been focused in 2021 on enhancing our pipeline with additional cell therapies. And we're really focused in this area for two very important reasons. First and foremost always is because we want to be able to bring that promise of health therapies to more patients with cancer. And we know that more and more patients continue both to be diagnosed and to unfortunately pass away from cancer. And so this really is an opportunity for us to be able to bring more benefit to patients. We also know it's important to enhance our pipeline so that we can increase the market opportunity for Chimeric. With the global oncology market growing to nearly $240 billion in the next 2 years, we really see the way to continue to improve our market opportunity is by bringing in additional assets that have very promising technologies. And as we do all of that, we're very excited to continue to grow our team. Myself and Dr. Rizvi actually started at Chimeric at the end of last year prior to the IPO. In March, we had Dr. Elliot Burke join us as our head of VP Business and Corporate Development. And most recently, just last week, we were very pleased to announce that we have Dr. Lee Rand joining us as our head of VP of Technical Operations. Across the 4 people that we have right now leading the organization, we have developed together over 25 cell therapies from preclinical through to FDA approval. And this team has actually worked on 4 out of the 5 currently approved CAR T therapies available in the world. So we really believe this puts us in a unique position to be able to bring those cell therapies through development to commercialization. So in 2021, Chimeric will continue to focus on advancing chlortoxin CAR T development through phase 1, preparing for phase 2 and into other solid tumors, on expanding our pipeline into additional cancers with new and very innovative cell therapies, and continuing to build out our team as we need to enable rapid commercialization and development. I thank you so much for your time and invite you to contact me with any questions. Thanks, Lorraine.
For Jennifer Chow initially. Apparently one of the main reasons there's a lack of therapies for glioblastoma is the blood-brain barrier effectively inhibits access to therapeutic agents to the tumour and the dendritic nature of the tumour growth. How does your product overcome this? And one of the other questions is, which you may want to answer at the same time, is what is Chimeric's differentiator from competitors?
Hi, Lorraine. So I'll start with the question about the blood-brain barrier. The chlortoxin CAR T is the only CAR T that's actually administered the way it is administered. It is administered directly into the brain. And so it is right now administered intratumorally and interventricular. One of the reasons why we were so happy to be able to announce that we had completed the first dose cohort of our phase 1 clinical trial was because it allowed us to advance to being able to give patients direct administration both intratumorally and interventricular. So that is very unique in this particular CAR T. And one of the reasons why we do believe we are going to be able to overcome a lot of the challenges that Stephen and Ev has talked about in terms of solid tumors and CAR Ts. The other question around the differentiator, I think probably a number of things, Lorraine. Certainly, I think the differentiator always starts with excellent science. But the other thing I will tell you as someone that has taken 4 CAR Ts through development to commercialization is there is definitely something to be said for having done it. Cell therapies are not easy to bring to commercialization. You see that as you watch cell therapies all over the place be delayed, their programs get stalled, things come to market very late or actually don't make it at all. And I think one of the things that really differentiates us is that our entire team has strong experience, not just in the science aspect, but actually translating that science all the way through to commercialization.
We've had a few questions from the floor about R&D in Australia. Specifically, Prescient's asked, but I'd like to ask the whole panel, to what extent you're doing R&D and preclinical development in Australia?
Our preclinical work was all done at City of Hope in the United States, and the phase 1 trial has started there, but we are now in the process of discussing what can be done in Australia. So we're looking forward to being able to start to do some more research and development in Australia.
Lovely. Jennifer, I'll stay with you. Chimeric's recently began dosing of second patient cohort in the CLTX CAR-T clinical trial. Can you tell us why this was such an important milestone?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thanks, Lorraine. So we did announce that we have completed the first dose cohort. It was an incredibly important milestone for us for a couple of reasons. First is that chlorotoxin was actually, it's a first in class. So it's not like a CD19 CAR-T that's been used in lots of patients. This is very novel. And so this was the first time it had been used in patients. So this really was a first time we were able to establish in human safety. So that was an incredibly important thing to be able to do with this CAR. The second piece was that in that initial dose cohort with any cell therapy program that's in a phase 1 clinical trial in the US, the FDA puts what's called a mandated stagger on patient enrollment, which means that you're only allowed to enroll one patient at a time. And so the first cohorts tend to enroll quite slowly. Once you actually clear that, which is what we were able to announce that we've done, you're able to take off that FDA mandated stagger and you can actually accelerate the advancement of the trial. So it was important to us for that reason as well. And then the third reason was what I was touching on before, is that as we moved from the first dose cohort to the second, we went from dosing patients only intratumorally to dosing patients both intratumorally and interventricular. So really has changed what we're looking at scientifically. So really excited to be able to continue to move into that second and third dose cohort.
Jennifer, you've talked about expanding your pipeline at Chimeric. What is it? Why is that important and what do you think it will add?
Yeah, we are focused right now on expanding our pipeline, and we look forward to making some announcements this year about how we're doing that. For us, it really goes to being able to really help more patients, as well as to grow the opportunity for Chimeric. So we've really been looking and we've been talking to scientists and inventors all around the world. We have been deeply exploring what we think are the most promising technologies, next generation CAR-Ts. We've been looking at allogeneic CAR-Ts as well, and we've also been looking at novel cell sources. So we really believe that there are some good reasons to grow the pipeline, and we look forward to making some announcements on that later this year.